Good afternoon, Jan.
Hey, good morning, Michael.
How do you do, sir?
Doing well. Doing well. What about you?
Fantastic. Yeah, um, I was able to spend a bit of time getting uh, getting a new service stood up in Azure. So, kind of took took inspiration from the last conversation we had, and said, you know what, we need to get um, uh, this replicator as a service thing going. So.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, got the first little tiny bits of that started.
Mhm.
Um,
That's uh, that's great.
yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's helping me to kind of stretch the DevOps muscles that I've used on other projects, and say, okay, you
Mhm.
know, this is the way that I've learned to do this right and to do this well, um, and I'm not constrained by other people's ideas of what DevOps should be. So it's like, let's do this, and
Mhm.
it's looking pretty good. I'll share that next week. I'll show the whole DevOps of how Azure is going. But
Okay.
this week I've actually got something even even more interesting to share.
Yeah, that's a very good thing because actually I thought I would have a very calm week,
Oh, yeah.
so I could spend a lot of time on historical modeling, and it turned to be the opposite.
Oh.
Nothing bad happened. Only good things,
Oh.
which
Okay.
I cannot I cannot tell on YouTube. But
All
no, a
right.
lot of good stuff. But a lot of work. So for the past week. And the week from what is it, 12 to 18 March, I will not be there.
Okay.
That's already, yeah. But so next week I will definitely be there. No problem.
All right. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, maybe during that time, I'll uh, maybe build a React Native app, kind of yeah
Okay.
show what the current state is
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
from start to finish,
Hmm.
or as far as I can get an hour. Kind of do um, the Groundhog Day thing again.
Yeah. 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 The feeling of the game um, in the shopping mall.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, the
Once
whack-a-mole thing.
once you told once you told me when you were young and you went with your mother to a shopping mall and then you started programming on a,
Oh, okay. That
yeah,
thing. Yes, yes,
was it on a TRS 80, a 10,
yes.
10D computer?
Yep, exactly,
Uh,
exactly. Which at the time I didn't have any computer at home, and I
mm,
just um, yeah, I can't actually remember. This was I think this was before my sister took a programming class and then came home and taught me BASIC. And I
yeah.
just wrote BASIC on paper because we didn't have a computer at that
Mm,
time. I think it was before that. Um, no, actually, it was after that. So yeah, that's where I'd learned my BASIC. So we didn't have the computer yet, but yeah, I
Now,
took some of the
now
BASIC
I
I wrote
know.
on paper. Yeah,
Now I know why you are better programming than I am. I have no sister.
mm, that's true. Yes.
No, I have no sister who learned me basic. Um, no.
Yeah.
Great. Tell me about the exciting things that you did this week.
Yeah. So uh, I implemented the authorization rules using the new specification syntax. So yeah, uh, I've been gradually moving more and more of Janaga.js from uh, specification functions, or template functions as I used to call them, into
Mhm.
the link-like specification language, um, and so now I finally got to authorization rules. So the next on the list is distribution rules, which I've not actually written in the old system yet. So
Mhm.
far, uh, Janaga.js has no distribution rules. So basically, reads have been wide open. Um,
Yeah.
but now, or the next thing is get the distribution rules in there, and then you'll be able to lock down your reads as well as your writes. which is kind of important if you want to keep secrets.
Yeah. um, but one thing I'm still a little bit missing relative to a normal database is discovering data. In a normal database, you can just ask for the schema of the database. You can just select star from that database. You have all the data, if you have the authorization, of course. And that's something in historical modeling. If you don't know the structure of the objects, I'm not sure that it would be useful.
I think it would be. Like you, I do like to walk up to a brand new database and say, okay, show me what you've got. And I want to see the list of tables, and then I want to see the foreign key relationships. And then for each table, I want to be able to drill in and say, okay, this one's interesting to me. Show me the columns. All right, then let's do some some real quick select top 100 type of exploration queries just to see. Like if this is in the QA database, I really want to see the the kind of tests that they have been running. So yeah, that's I think that is an important aspect of being able to explore any system. And yeah, that is a challenge with this style of working. The thought that I have with the replicator as a service is that not only will the replicator in the cloud host your data, but it will also have some extra development tools. So you should be able to upload a model, and you should be able to upload authorization rules and distribution rules, and then log into the replicator as an admin and take a look at some data. Now, making that work with authorization rules is going to be kind of interesting because, I do want to have a level of protection in a replicator that there is no privileged user that can just see all of the data. Because if there is a privileged user, then that means that it can be attacked.
Yeah. But upload a model to the replicator. Why would you do that?
Yeah, so that the replicator could give you this exploration experience, and so that the model is already important for being able to specify the authorization rules and the distribution rules. So the replicator needs to be able to enforce those rules, and so having the model for that purpose is already necessary. But having a more fleshed out model for exploration would be useful as well.
Yeah, but would that also mean that if now we have a model independent database, and if we upgrade, if we change our model, we only add new facts. That's all. So it's very easy to upgrade. Would that interfere with that possibility?
Yeah, that is something I have to be careful about. So what I'm thinking is that either the models that you upload will be versioned and just kind of used for this exploration, so you can pick which, or more likely it knows which version of the model this particular data was recorded with, and so therefore uses that model to show it to you. I'll probably even go as far as structural versioning. So yeah, as you start shipping new data to the replicator, it can just sense that that this is coming in with a different shape, so this is therefore a different version. But yeah, the thing to be careful about is if for example an authorization rule is written on one version, and then you say, okay, I'm going to start developing the next version. Let's go ahead and deploy new authorization rules. You want to make sure that the applications that are still using the old version of the facts will be able to get or will be able to publish the data that they're producing, and so it's going to have to satisfy those new authorization rules. And if you're just adding new fact types, then that's not going to be a problem. But if you're changing structure, then that could be a problem.
Yeah, that's why perhaps working in a structural way and automatically detecting the model would be a nice thing, I guess.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
we're going to have to play around with that, make that a good experience.
One of the things I was wondering last week, if you make it a multi-tenant system, then you really have to be careful with the naming of the fact types.
Yeah.
So would you consider a kind of namespace for every customer?
Yes, absolutely. That's where it's going to start. Is every replicator instance that you create will have its own isolated namespace. In fact, all the fact store will be isolated, as in this is going to be a multi-tenant version of the database that we're used to. So so it's going to have the extra tenant column on all of the things. So yeah, physically in the same database, but isolated by that tenant column. So that's always present in all of the where clauses. But then yeah, that still leaves open what happens when you want to integrate with another replicator. So the first way that you're going to integrate replicators is when you, as a customer, set up multiple replicators for yourself. And you say, okay, this one is for the web application. That one is for mobile clients. This is for internal functions. And then they have a relationship where they some of them are considered upstream of the others. They kind of build that graph. And so when you create those replicators, you are going to start to push facts into one, and they're going to flow into the other. And if they're all on the replicator as a service, then they're all technically just flowing within the same database, but just with different tenant IDs. And so far that's not really running into the problem that you're talking about, because it's still one organization that's making that decision. So as long as they decide on names, everything's good. It's then when you want to integrate with another organization, that will start with APIs, as I describe in the book. That's how we're integrating today. That's how we're going to start integrating in the future. But ultimately, I want to see immutable organizations integrating with one another through direct replicator connections, and that's when you really have to make sure that the namespaces don't collide.
Yeah, because already now in a model, for example, the one with the tasks and the assignments, you have a project assignment, you do a delete, and then you have a task assignment, and you do a delete restore.
Mm-hmm.
Two facts. If you call them just delete, you have a problem.
Yeah. So there's something that kind of steps in by accident and saves you there, and that is that the roles are identified as well. So a role is identified by its declaring type, which is the successor, and the role name, and then the successor gets to say this is the type of the predecessor. So so when you declare that delete fact type for a task, for example, then that delete type is going to say, and I've got a role named task, which is of type task. But the other delete type is going to say I have a role of type named project, which is of project type. And so when you take a look at actual edges in the graph, you take a look at the instances of the data, it's going to have one or the other, and so it's not going to get confused which one it's talking about. but
Okay.
that's purely by accident. um, yeah, you can still get into trouble if you name your roles the same thing and you name your fact types the same thing, but then they point to different fact types, or um, then you do end up with a collision in those two model definitions. Um, so I haven't thought through how this should look, but when you integrate two replicators from two different organizations, there needs to be some kind of a translation mechanism. So the first the first order of defense is that at that replicator at the edge, I'm going to build some distribution rules that say these are the facts that I allow out into the world. So from this replicator, that's all I distribute, and that's going to be a subset of the distribution rules I use internally. So my employees and my customers can get access to all of these facts, but here at this replicator, my partners can only get access to those. And so those facts should be defined by an agreement between the two partners. Like we've got API contracts today. Yeah, that's the sort of contract that would be used to define those. So if you've used that contract internally and then you limit your distribution rule, then you're going to be okay because you've already adopted that contract internally, and there's not going to be a conflict, or you've already discovered and dealt with the conflict. But yeah, if you still run into the problem if this is a brand new contract. I've not done this kind of integration before, but I am an immutable organization, and so I've got facts inside. But hey, look, there's a conflict between the facts that I've defined and the facts defined in this contract. So therefore, at the edge, I need to do some translation, and I don't know what that translation looks like right now. That does mess with things.
Yeah. Eventually, you will come up with a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, let's solve the easy problems first, and then well, the easy
We'll see
problems.
when we come to it. Let's make it work locally first, or in one organization.
Yeah. Yeah, I can share the authorization rules. Kind of show what these are looking like these days. Okay, so this is now what authorization rules look like, so these are all based on the model. Here's the model as it's defined for this particular test. So so we've got our model builder, and we say that there's a type user. It doesn't have any predecessors to speak of. Then there's a type site. It does have a predecessor called creator, and that's of type user. And just go through. These are all of the types within the model. And then the predecessor, what's the role name, and what's the predecessor type. So yeah, just what we were describing a second ago. The successor defines the role and determines the predecessor type. So that model is now given to, if I go all the way to the top of this test, it's given to Janaga create. So yeah, now the Janaga instance knows about that model, and so are the authorization rules. So the authorization rules are defined with this function. So I take authorization rules, and then I use this same kind of builder pattern in order to define the rules for different types. And this is the same authorization rules type that was used before. I just expanded it so that it can work with the specification language. So the transition from the old Janaga.js to the new Janaga.js will be as smooth as I can make it. So we're saying here, I will allow anybody to create a user, and that basically user is just Janaga user with a public key. And so anybody can say, yes, there is a user with this public key, even if they are not that user, which is a public key. So you can say it. But then here, who can create a site? Well, only the site creator. So site creator is a predecessor of site. That's of type user. So so I can't claim to create a site, but then set the creator to somebody else. It's got to be my user fact. And then we get into the actual kind of meat of it. So who can create content on that site? Well, so content is on a particular site, and only the site creator can create content. That's what that rule is telling us. But then we've got a second rule for content, and this one gets more complicated. So now instead of just the very simple give me the predecessor type of Lambda expression, now we've got a fact repository coming in. So with the fact repository, I can look for facts of a given type. And now I can do successor type of joins as well. So so I'm going to say that content can be created by, if you have a fact of type guest blogger, then join that guest blogger to that site. And that's got to be the same as the content site. So in other words, this content could have been created by a user that was invited by the site creator, which is telling me I actually forgot one of the rules. So the rules, I'll put it up here, should be that for type guest, oh, it's predicting what I'm about to say. That's funny. For the type guest blogger, I'm going to actually type it out rather than accepting the prediction, because I like to see the intelligence. So we say, oops, that arrow, guest blogger dot, and those are all of the possible predecessors of guest blogger. So it's the so the guest blogger cannot invite themselves, so not the guest blogger dot guest, but guest blogger dot site dot creator. So the site creator can invite a guest blogger. And now, having done so, the guest blogger can post content. So this last select menu right here, so far we've gotten up to the guest blogger, and now we have to, or we've gotten down to the guest blogger, and now we have to go back up to the actual guest. So these are always specifications that yield a user, the set of users that can actually create these facts. So that's what authorization rules look like now.
So these authorization rules, they are transferred from a client to the replicator, also to the server.
They are actually just implemented on the server. So right now I'm doing this inside of a test. So yeah.
So this language is not converted to what we call the native specification language.
No, it is not. At least not yet. So let me see if I can bring up the Improving You app. So yeah, let's let's pop that open in another window here, and let's take a look at the old authorization rules. So, and these are all on the server side. So, so in this project structure, we've got both the client and the server. Okay. And then so there's all the client code, all the server code, and then the shared code. So this is all the models that are shared between the two. So on the server, we have an authorization function that so it's the same authorization rules as we saw before. It just doesn't have those additional overloads. And then we've got this .with means just call another function. So like, for example, let's talk about courses. So we're going to authorize catalog. So that just means call another function. That way we can compose these things. We don't have to have just a big long list in one place. So yeah, this is the old style where, first of all, these all took the .type, so they just took strings. Now I'm actually passing in the constructor itself. So I've got the actual TypeScript type, as well as the I can access .type because that's a static property of the constructor. But then the second and the bigger difference is this is using J.4. So this is a good old familiar template function, specification function, and this style was using ensure because it had to declare that this thing has a predecessor of type catalog before it can actually use that in the template. And now we don't need to do ensure because we've got model. So model basically takes care of all that declaration. And then here's all the .then chaining of these specification functions. So yeah, we're looking for that identifier.catalog that was looking at a predecessor. This one is also looking at a predecessor going up to the semester in the company, and then company from the creator. So yeah, this is a big old long predecessor chain, just getting up to the creator of that particular the company that this catalog is in. But yeah, the authorization rules are just at the server side. Could also be at the client side. It kind of makes sense for them to be in both places, but server most importantly, because a rogue client or an attacker is just going to call j.fact and send some stuff up to the server, and they can disable the authorization rules on the client side if they have access to the code. That's fine. But the server needs to invalidate the authorization rule before allowing that new fact into the database. And so the idea, let me switch back now to that looks so much better. The idea behind the replicator as a service is that you won't be compiling this code and then deploying it to the replicator. You just say, hey, I want to create a new replicator, and there it is. It's created for you. So so in order to to allow that, you should have a mechanism as a developer to write this code and then package it up and give it to the replicator to unpackage and execute those rules without doing an actual code deployment. And so that's the one place where we actually will turn these specifications into the specification language in order to create that package and give it to the replicator. So what I envision for that is a command line tool. So so you should be able to authenticate with the replicator in the cloud, and then create the package, upload it, and install it. And that way you should be able to run that in your CI/CD. So as you're building your client, you're also just packaging and deploying your rules to the replicator.
So it can only be done from the server itself.
Right, yes. Yep. Yep, if it's not done on the server, then it can be attacked. And we definitely don't want that.
Better avoid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting this to work actually has been quite some fun. Yeah, there is one aspect of this that I think is pretty interesting at the kind of theoretical level. So, and that is this ability to split a specification. So if we take a look at a specification like this, we're just getting the site's creator, or from the guest blogger getting the guest blogger site creator, or from a comment just getting the comment author. So you can comment on, anybody can comment on on content, but they have to correctly sign it. They have to attribute it to themselves. They can't attribute it to somebody else. So that's what that's saying. But all of these rules are just following the graph up toward predecessors. And at the time that you are sending this comment to the replicator, it doesn't, that comment itself is not in the database. So it doesn't have the foreign key relationships to just say, all right, given this comment, run this specification and give me the user that's able to to do that. That would be getting the cart before the horse there. So so instead, the replicator, the server, needs to run this specification on the actual graph that the client sends up. So so when we say let's take this one step at a time. So in authorization rules, right here, when we check to see if you are authorized, we've got the fact that we're trying to authorize, really just the reference to it, and then this actually does have the fact record, so we've got the full information about it. But right here we've got the fact graph, and so that's the transitive closure. That's a collection containing this fact and all of its predecessors and all of their predecessors. So you've got that upward-facing cone. And you do have access to the storage when you're making this determination. But you have to start off with the fact graph, because this fact isn't in the storage yet. And so we need to figure out how much of this specification can we run on the graph, and then how much do we need to run on the store. And so to do that, we split the specification, and that gives us the head and the tail. The head is the part of the specification that can be run just on the graph. All it does is look at predecessors. The tail is right after it turns that corner and starts looking at successors. Then that's the part that needs to be run on the store. So that led to some pretty neat math to find that split point and then to generate two specifications where there used to be one. So with these tests,
Yeah. What's the difference between running it on the store and running it on the graph?
Yeah, running it on the graph. The graph is all in memory. So this is just a collection of fact records, but there's an implied promise right here. You know, because I gave you a fact graph, these records are closed, as in every predecessor inside of these records is every reference to a predecessor in the records is already contained within it's somewhere else inside of that records collection. So if I were to walk up from one fact up to a predecessor, I would be able to find it in the graph, and then up to the next one, that would be in the graph as well. So it's completed the transitive closure. And that's all in memory, and that all comes from the client because I can verify the signature. I can compute the hash. The hash includes all of the predecessors. So the information in this graph identifies that fact that I'm trying to create. So I can't spoof the graph either.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then what's then the difference with the facts in the store?
Yeah. So the let me get back to this one here. Yep. So the fact graph has not been committed to the store yet. So the facts in the store are facts that I trust.
Because they are already authorized before.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And then the ones in the graph are the ones that came in and for which we are checking the authorization rule now.
Yep. Exactly.
And then why do we still need the facts in the store in this routine?
Yeah, and that's because the authorization rule might include some successor joins. So it might like, for example, say that the guest blogger. If we come back here, so I've got this content that I want to authorize. So I'm going to go up to the site, and now from there I'm going to look to see, do I have a guest blogger fact that matches this specification. If I don't, then that means that that this particular person has not been authorized to create that content. But if I do, then they have. So I can't trust information coming from the author themselves anymore. Once I get to that point, I have to say, all right, let me turn around and look for a guest blogger fact that I already trust, that has already been authorized. And that came in from the actual site creator.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, I test drove this as I love to do. So starting with a simple specification like, given an office, find facts of type company that match office.company. So, so this is the longhand version of something like this.
Yeah.
So I was able to through the magic of TypeScript, get it down to just that. But this is what that expands to. This is what that means. So On the left side of this join, I don't have any roles. I didn't say company dot something. But on the right side, I do. So that tells me that this is a predecessor join. So if I was looking for company and I was then going to company dot something else, so company dot creator, company dot identifier is a field, so company dot creator is the only predecessor there. If I was going up from this side, that means that in order to find that company, I would have to go down. I would have to do a successor join. But since I'm not doing any roles on the left, then that means this is purely a predecessor join.
Okay.
And so that kind of a specification ends up entirely in the head. So head is either specification or undefined. Tail is either specification or undefined. So in this case, tail should be undefined. And head, that's just going to be exactly the specification. So just convert them both to strings, compare the strings. Honestly, I could say expect head to equal specification, because in that case it actually does return the actual same object, but just as long as they mean the same thing, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's only predecessors, then everything's in the head. In this case, it's only successors. So now I'm starting with the company and I'm matching facts of type office. So I'm looking at office company is equal to company. The roles are on the right, therefore I'm going down from company to office. And so in that case, head is going to be undefined and tail is going to be the complete specification. So in the case of authorization rules, if everything is in the head, no problem. I just run it on the graph, don't even touch the store, and I've got my answer. But if everything is in the tail, then this is unsatisfiable. That means the very first thing I'm trying to do is a successor join, and so I know that no successor facts have been authorized yet, because I haven't even authorized this one. So I just, in fact, because you can't even set up an authorization rule that way, I just throw an exception at that point. Say, nope, fix your authorization rule.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts to get interesting, because sometimes you can go up to a predecessor and then down to a successor. So in this case, given an employee, go up to the employee's office. And so you end up with a join with nothing on the right, everything on the left. Therefore, it's a predecessor join. And then select many facts of type president, where the president office is equal to the office. So now all of the joins are on the right. I'm sorry, all the joins are on the left. I might have been saying left and right completely backwards this whole time. Weird. But yeah, since everything is is on the left-hand side, that means this is a successor join. So I'm going from the office down to presidents, where president has office as a predecessor.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gone up to a predecessor and then back down to a successor. And so in that case, both head and tail are going to be defined. We're going to take the first half of it on the head, and from the employee go up to the office. And then the second half will be from the office down to the president. And so that means, from the perspective of authorization rules, I run this part on the graph. And that means that I get to a fact that presumably I already know about. So I say, hey, yeah, I need to create this employee record.
Yeah.
So I say, okay, I don't know that employee record yet, but then let me take a look. Okay, this employee is in this office. I do know about that office. All right, so you had better be the office president. Otherwise, I'm not going to allow this. And so now I look in my own database and I say, okay, who is the office president? Oh, it's you? All right, you're good. If it's somebody else, rejected. So that's the case of going up to a predecessor, then down to a successor. If you go down to a successor first and then up to predecessor, then you end up with this case. So in this case, you actually do have roles on the left and roles on the right. So that means, okay, given, let's see, wait a minute. That name might be wrong. Yeah, because I'm starting with employee, and then I'm going up to office, and then back down to president. So actually, this is the same, this is the same case as this. It's just written differently. Yeah, and in fact, if you take a look at the results, employee, office, and then office president. Okay, yeah. This name is just wrong. This still goes predecessor and then back down to successor, but it does it in one line rather than defining an intermediate and doing it in 2 lines.
All right.
Yeah, so this one says, all right, I'm going to start with the office and then look for the president. This one's going to say, I'm just going to go straight to the president. But the president's office had better be the same. Oh, goodness. The president's office had better be the same as the employee's office. Yeah, let me fix that.
Big question is, how can we document this that it becomes more visual, that easier to visualize?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's another quite abstract piece of code.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So we can document the type graph, and we can show how employees and presidents and offices are connected. So that's a common predecessor, just 2 leaves pointing up to one root. But yeah, then you should be able to say, this is the fact that you're trying to authorize the employee, and so you can follow everything up, and then at this point, have a dividing line. We turn the corner and we start going down. So this is the head, everything else is the tail.
In fact, just document it with some examples.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would be...
There, it would even become more interesting to have this, for example, a fact list, like we can discover a database. Because to find out what is happening exactly, you need to see the list of facts that you have in your database.
Mm-hmm.
And with the testing I did just until now for making the SQL, you just add a few facts, and with the visualization tools you can have the diagram.
Mm-hmm.
But once you would, adding facts is a lot of work. I mean, you have to add them, you have to name them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you add too many, the diagram, you cannot not see them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that is true. Yeah, so GraphViz is awesome, but maybe there should be a more interactive um, way to visualize a set of types and a type graph.
yeah, but I think the type graph is very good, but then the data, perhaps we should add just equal facts in a table.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
the instance graph is the thing that gets really busy. Yeah.
yeah, because the type graph, okay, it can be very large if you have an enormous model, but it's not going to grow. It's not going to become larger than that. While if you add facts, the instance graph is always growing,
Mm-hmm.
and for every uh, latest fact you add, you need to add it to the expression
Right.
to
Yes.
show it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it would be useful to be able to see them in a table. This is where I can kind of take some inspiration from LinkPad. I think it does a really good job of visualizing a complex tree within a table. So it starts off with just here's the result set, just a table, but then you can expand certain cells within the table to say, oh, this is actually a list of objects, so it expands into another table.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there might be something similar to that we can do.
But of course, that's going to give you the content of the database.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are talking about adding a new fact. Yeah. Because it doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. If we just have that tool on the replicator, then you would have already been successful in
Yeah.
defining the new fact type and creating the authorization rule so that you could upload it to the replicator. And then now, once it's up there, you can visualize it. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of steps that you need that visualization to help you with.
Yeah. But already just to see which facts were allowed to be added.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes it's it's getting used to historical modeling.
Yeah, yeah, but to be quite honest, that's what I want the replicator as a service site application to be able to help you with. One of these days, I want somebody who has Excel skills to be able to go to this site and say, I want to create a replicator, and then start putting my own data in it, and not even know anything about programming.
Yeah, but they still, for example, if they want to define the authorization rules, you need to understand how they work, and you need to verify that they work effectively as you want them to work.
Yeah.
Because last time, I don't remember by heart anymore what it was, but for next time I will find up. I had something very funny in a query where I say, oh, is that the expected behavior? Or is there something funny going on? But to test it, you have to make a lot of facts. You have to delete facts, restore facts.
Yeah. Yeah, which I love to do in unit tests. I made the unit testing experience really good so that I could do that. But yeah, not everybody's going to write unit tests in order to verify that. They might want to just play around.
Well,
Yeah.
I like to. I see enormous benefits for the unit tests in the programming, but just when you're playing in .NET Interactive,
Right.
To verify a few things, that's very nice. A very nice tool to play with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't write unit tests in .NET Interactive. That doesn't make sense. That's not what it's for. But
Well,
Yeah.
Usually, I just go and copy the code from your unit test. I copy it into .NET Interactive. I copy the facts. I copy them also, create the facts, and that's my starting point.
Yeah.
And especially now that we can see the native specification code automatically, and that we can call the database. It's just the combination of everything that makes it so interesting.
Yeah. 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 So I'm gonna have to one of the problems I'm gonna have to figure out a solution for to make that experience really good is when you're working with authorization rules, you're going to want to seed your database with some facts that somebody else created. So yeah, I want to pretend to be the site creator, and now I'm going to invite a guest blogger. Now I want to pretend to be the guest blogger, and I want to create content. In a unit test, you can't switch who's logged in. You instead just seed the database with known facts that you say, go ahead and trust these, and now pretend that I'm the site creator and move forward from there. But in interactive, you would really want to be able to say, create me a database. Log in as this user, and now log in as that user, but use the same database. So, yeah. Yeah. I think
Anyway,
there's a way through that.
Already we got from the beginning until now, the visualization is already much better.
Yeah. 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 Thanks to you suffering through the poor experience and saying, yeah, no, make this better.
Yeah. It's nothing has been done immediately to the perfect version.
Yeah.
It's always a matter of iterations.
Yep.
But okay.
Yep. That's what we need to. That's what That's why we are the pioneers here, and then eventually somebody else will just be able to to sign in and start.
You mean
start creating
you are
some
the
facts.
pioneer and I try to catch up? Yeah, I'm running behind.
Yeah, but
Michael.
yeah, but still, there's nobody else that's that's running behind and challenging me in this right now. So, so yeah, your contributions are extremely important, and I thank you for this.
Well, I thank you for the technology, because one day I will implement it in DWS, because it's a lot delayed, but we will get to it.
Yep. I think this time last year, you said, hey, by the end of the year, I want DWS on Janaga. And I was like, are you sure? Maybe let's do this other thing. And you said, nope, it's got to be on Janaga. Okay, let's work toward that. Actually, I think now, by the end of 2023, seems a bit more reasonable. I think we can do it.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about that. I say, okay, by then that, but okay. Meanwhile, customers are still using the old version.
Yeah.
What I'm more afraid of is that one of the days the old version, which is running on Android, but I didn't modify, I didn't upgrade Android Studio anymore, because I don't want to waste time on that. Otherwise, we will never get there. But at a certain moment, a new Android version will not support it anymore.
Yeah.
And then, I will waste again a lot of time just catching up, because what I did at that time, I forgot.
Yeah. Well, it's then quite quite lucky that you did not support iPhone, because in iOS that kind of breaking revolution happens once every 2 years. I think I might even be being conservative there.
No, in Android it's amazing. Okay, it's not such a complex application. but it's still running. It's still installing on the newest version. So the
Mm-hmm.
backwards compatibility, it's as good as Windows.
Yep.
Which is amazing for a relative new platform.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, but I think once we get onto Maui, Maui seems to be Maui is really taking advantage of in Visual Studio. I forget what they're called, but basically it's a collection of, hey, you want to build a Maui app? Okay, you need all of these things. You need Android Studio, you need Xcode, you need simulators and emulators and all this stuff installed. And it seems to be a pretty solid, even though this is a brand new feature of Visual Studio. It seems to be pretty solid at this point. So I predict that going forward, once you're on Maui, staying up to date with Xcode, for example, is going to be a lot easier than it has been in the past. So yeah, in this case, Android Studio, we should just bring down the new APKs and make sure that it all compiles. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting everything onto Maui.
And I think the advantage of Microsoft, they have a lot of disadvantages, but the advantage is that they always had a system and environment which was relatively stable.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to work. While, if I remember, I started on Android, there was no Android Studio. What was it? Eclipse or in which we developed?
Yeah, you're right.
With Java, and then Android Studio came, and every day there was something new, and it was different. So that's why I'm pretty amazed that it still works. But no, I want to go for Maui and then stick to that platform.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good target.
I think that's the only way to, because I'm alone to serve iOS customers and serve Android customers and have the application on Windows. The backend application has to be, or the console has to be on Windows. Because every platform advances so much.
Yeah.
There is no way to catch up otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, and we should actually be able to move that console to the web so that they don't have to install a local app.
Yes and no. I still like to have a database locally, a local repository of facts which synchronizes.
Yeah.
Internet is getting better and better. But it doesn't mean that a web client might be useful as well.
Yeah, if it's a PWA, then it would have local storage, but yeah, I can see some advantages of a fully installed application with a full database. With PWA, the storage that you get within the browser is still limited, so yeah, it might not be enough for a DWS distributor. Yeah.
We will see. If we first have console in Windows and an application in Android, and then later on we can try it on iOS, whether that works fine, or at the same time, because it's the same code almost.
Yeah.
It should be. Let's see.
Yep. Yeah, the cross-platform story has always been a little bit wonky. It's getting better. React Native was I think a pretty big leap over cross-platform in the past. Maui seems to be a pretty big leap over Xamarin. So yeah, maybe it is going to be to the point where you can just write one application and actually have it deployed to iOS and to Android, as well as write an application using the same XAML and have it deployed on Windows.
that will be, I mean, the difference between a small screen and a big screen.
Yeah.
We will see. We will see. Let's first get everything working.
Yep.
I hope to have a little bit more time this week, so that I can continue with the SQLite adaptation.
Excellent. Yeah, and next week I should be able to show off the replicator as a service running in Azure. As far as I can get it after 2 weeks of working on it, it won't actually be replicating, but we'll have an application where you can create a replicator. So, yeah, and then I can kind of show off the infrastructure and how I got it deployed, because I'm pretty proud of that. So.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Awesome.
Okay, Michael, we'll see you next week. It's time for you to go work.
Yes, it is. Yep, we'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you very much.